Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field educate, inform and inspire the community to live a more balanced and healthier lifestyle they love. Our first guest today is naturopath, respiratory specialist and published author Julie Rudakova, and she will be talking about effective solutions for sleep apnea. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you.
What is obstructive sleep apnea?
So obstructive sleep apnea is exactly what's in the name. There is an obstruction in the airways and the person stops breathing for some time during sleep. Those episodes can be quite long or can be short and frequent, and normally a good sleep study will tell you which stage of obstructive sleep apnea a person is at. And as always, as a breathing specialist, I go back to the fundamentals and look at why that dysfunctional pattern occurred. So with obstructive sleep apnea, as I mentioned before, there is an obstruction. So what the obstruction is, normally it's the tissues that are super relaxed during sleep. Oftentimes it happens when the person is sleeping on their back, and that soft tissue falls and blocks the airways partially, and it's harder to breathe. However, the body is very smart, and the body will always push you to breathe, and that's when the person wakes up. So it's that constant waking up throughout the night that leads to fatigue in the morning, poor memory, poor concentration during the day as a result. And we look at the whys of the obstruction. So oftentimes it is a bit of an extra weight that a person might carry. So just when there is a little bit of an extra weight, it's just the weight is more to press and the condition develops faster. There is also a chemical aspect of sleep apnea. Again, that dysfunctional breathing pattern, that vicious cycle of over-breathing, maybe even throughout the day, mouth breathing throughout the day, mouth breathing at night, that developed as a response. And it's not a pathology. I always say it's not a pathology, it's a response of the body to something. And we need to figure out what that something is. And that's a bit of a detective work that we do. But what I always point at is with obstructive sleep apnea, we deal with oftentimes CPAP machine. And what I say with a CPAP machine, it's a great intermediate step because there is no oxygen that the body receives, that the brain receives, and there is fatigue as a result in the morning. However, the CPAP machine pushes the oxygen, but we have two gases that participate in the breathing process. It's oxygen and carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide is lost. And what the carbon dioxide does for us that we forget is that it delivers oxygen into the cells. We still need to maintain that oxygen delivery. It's the Boy effect. It's in every medical textbook. And what it says is that to detach the oxygen, so the oxygen travels in the red blood cells on the hemoglobin molecule, right? It travels in the blood and we need it in a cell, in a tissue, to have energy there, to get energy there. And carbon dioxide is the guy who takes it off the hemoglobin and delivers it. It's like in a taxi, and the carbon dioxide opens the door, please get out. Here is your destination. So we need it. And when we lose it a lot through mouth breathing, especially at night, we spend on average 8 hours. 8 hours a day we spend sleeping. And it's a lot of carbon dioxide lost through that. So we need to look at breathing retraining.
So what are effective solutions for sleep apnea?
So for sleep apnea, I do recommend to break that vicious cycle of overbreathing again during the night, during the day, and start looking at how we can reverse and how we can re-establish nasal breathing. Nasal breathing is the key here in obstructive sleep apnea, just because of that mechanism of oxygen delivery. And as a result, better oxygenation of the tissues and cells, and better focus during the day. Oxygen is energy. Oxygen is our energy currency. So we have energy from food, but we also get energy from breathing. So we can waste our energy through breath, or we can get more oxygen and get more energy.
What is your advice for people with obstructive sleep apnea?
Well, firstly, do not wait to get diagnosed. If you're tired in the morning, let's look at how you breathe during the day, and if there is any feedback, if you have a partner in the room, about your snoring. So that would be number one. But for the viewers today, I would just say, let's do this little test and see how gently and slowly you can breathe. So set up a timer for 5 minutes and see if you can maintain regular, slow meaning it's an average 6 breaths per minute, right? It's a very functional breathing rate. It means you breathe into the count of 4, you breathe out to the count of 6, and you do it gently. And for sleep apnea, for obstructive sleep apnea, the gentleness in the breathing process is the most important aspect. And I'll explain why this is so. So imagine that the airway is like a paper straw. So when you order a milkshake at a cafe and you have a sip, nice big sip through a thick paper straw, and if you take it really, really hard, then the paper straw collapses. The sides of the paper straw will come together just because of that force. And if you sip gently, it's going to be intact. So that's kind of an analogy of our airways, right? So gentle breathing is the key here for sleep apnea sufferers. So you can start doing that at home, see where it leads you, and always seek an individualized plan from a professional naturopath.
Thank you so much, Julia. If you'd like to learn more about effective solutions for sleep apnea and Julia, you can visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Stick around, because after the break, we'll be back with another guest and another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, psychotherapist specialising in hypnotherapy Julie Makin will be talking about find freedom from a habit or an addiction. Welcome back. Our second guest is Julie Makin, a psychotherapist specialising in hypnotherapy, and we will be discussing how to find freedom from an addiction or a habit. It's so good to see you again, Julie.
Thank you.
So can you define for us what is an addiction and what is a habit?
Yes. So how I would say about a definition, and this is Gabor Mate's, for an addiction, it's anything that provides you with relief, that gives you pleasure, something that you crave, and it may have negative consequences. And even if it has negative consequences, you still continue to do it. So I feel that that is a great definition for what an addiction actually is. What I would say about a habit, so let's just say that somebody might have a habit about getting ready in the morning, and just perhaps they, leave something out, or they don't do something, and then maybe they might start to get a little bit agitated or worried, or, they start going into that fight-flight state. So that's the way I would go about saying a habit. Now, as far as addictions are concerned, it can really be anything. So it could be, the good old chocolate addiction, or maybe there's, the hardened ones like the drugs or the alcohol. People who go to gym and they get addicted to the pain in their body from doing their workout. That is an addiction. So it can be anything that is a substance or a behaviour.
Why do people have addictions and habits?
Let's just say we have an uncomfortable emotion that comes up. For this purpose, let's just call it anxiety, okay? We all know that anxiety is really uncomfortable to sit in, really uncomfortable. And I can actually remember one particular moment for myself when I'm, at a party, and I've got my glass sitting on the wooden table in front of me, and it's full of water. And my friends are around and they're having a great time. They're singing, the music is blaring, and I'm reaching over to get my glass, and my hand is shaking. I grab the glass and I can see the glass, the water starting to shake in there. I have to use my second hand in order to stabilize it because the anxiety is so bad, just to get the glass to my mouth. So anxiety can come up in different ways for you. It can be so powerful. Now, when we've got our anxiety that's coming up, a lot of people, because we're sitting in that discomfort, we need to soothe that pain. And we might do that with smoking or gambling or a drug, whether it be prescription or perhaps, more recreational drug. There's so many different things that this can help, but this helps to soothe that pain and just puts it back down. And we get to a point where, we might feel uncomfortable in our environment. This might start coming up, but you don't feel it, you don't recognize it because this is already on it, helping us. So the first thought that you might get is, oh, I really need that cigarette or whatever, and it's already there helping soothe it. Now this might be, so whatever the addiction or behavior, whether it be substance, that could actually be soothing the pain. It could be your time out, it could be your escape. Whatever it is, I invite whoever feels that they might have an addiction or a habit, I invite them to get really compassionate for themselves, okay?
So you've mentioned self-compassion. Is there other tools that people can use to help with their addiction or their habit?
Absolutely. I think that the first thing to notice is if you start having this anxiety come up and perhaps you have your first thought of wanting that cigarette or, that first drink of alcohol or whatever it is for you, whatever your coping mechanism is, I invite you to hold off from having it and just begin to notice and have an awareness of what it is that's coming up for you. So it might be agitation in the body. Your hands might start to shake, you might feel your heart start to race. But then what I'd really invite your guests to notice is if they can go inside their body, really focus on that part of the body and really thank it, because an emotion is made up of all physical sensations. Just imagine if you've got an emotion, if you were to think of it like an opera. Okay, now an opera can be so extremely powerful. It has the power to make you laugh, make you cry, make you happy, or make you sad. But if you can imagine the power that opera would have if there was just the one instrument playing, just like if there was just the one physical sensation that you were focused on, what would the power then be?
What practical advice do you have for our viewers?
Okay, so the practical advice that I would provide viewers is that if they, after completing that little exercise that I just provided, so just holding off and just noticing what is coming up in the body, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, please seek a professional therapist. Once again, we're looking at all different types of modalities, so whatever is right for you. My suggestion would be for somebody to seek somebody that works with the body, because it's the body that's where it's at. I know that there has previously been people who have worked with particular therapists for maybe three years, and they may have had an emotional eating issue, but then when they've gone and sought help with working with the body, it really didn't take long for them to just drop that emotional eating issue, and they were able to feel safer in the world. They were approaching things differently. So it really depends on the person, what is right and safe for them as to what action of therapy it is that they take. But I strongly suggest people have a look at different associations, because you want to know that those people are qualified. You don't want to just, go off and choose anybody. But you want to go to associations, have a look at what practitioners it is that they suggest on their web pages.
Thank you, Julie.
No worries.
If you would like to know more about Julie Makin and addictions and habits, please visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll be back with another interesting guest and another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, mindset coach Sharee Shefket will be talking about how to know if you have self-limiting beliefs. Welcome back. Our last guest today is mindset coach Sharee Shefket, and we will be discussing how to know if you have self-limiting beliefs. Welcome, Sharee.
Thank you for having me.
So, what are self-limiting beliefs?
So self-limiting beliefs are basically beliefs that are recurring, that's quite negative about yourself. That's what's called self-limiting. So if you feel like you're, say, an average student because you're a C grade student and have a great report card, that might be a self-limiting belief that you're just an average student. And what happens with the way your subconscious mind works, it will look for evidence. Every time you do something average C, you're just an average C student. And so that will reinforce that self-limiting belief. And every time you do an activity, you do it with that level of, I'm just an average person. Whereas someone who doesn't have a self-limiting belief, and they're maybe an A+ student, will look for more evidence that they are an A+ student. So when they do a task, they do it at a different level. So self-limiting beliefs are very important because it could really change your life if you've got them. And we all have. We have probably thousands of self-limiting beliefs unless you work on them. And it all depends on the programming that you've received as in your childhood, because that environment that you grew up in will play a big part of how many self-limiting beliefs you have.
How do you know if you have self-limiting beliefs?
So some self-limiting beliefs are quite conscious, because it's like, okay, well, that voice in your head will say, see, you don't deserve it. You're unworthy. You're not worthy of beautiful things, and that, so it's a bit more conscious. But we also have several self-limiting beliefs that are still unconscious. The best one I think is really important is the fact of, do you love yourself? So, for example, a self-limiting belief is more of a negative belief about yourself, whereas just a belief about yourself. So you think, I'm capable, I'm productive. That's just a belief about yourself that's got no negative connotation. So what we're looking for is more the negative self-limiting beliefs about how you see yourself and how you present, and that will how you present yourself to the rest of the world. For example, I could test to see if you've got a self-limiting belief. Are you okay with that? Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So I do a thing called Psyche, and it's involves self-muscle testing. So I want you to say your full name, but as you say your name, I want you to swallow your saliva. So my name is, and then swallow.
My name is Ali Burney.
And did you swallow okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now I want you to do the same thing, but this time I want you to say, my name is Frank, and swallow.
My name is Frank.
And how was that for you?
That was really hard to swallow.
Great. The reason why you're unable to swallow is that subconscious controls your whole body. And so when something is not congruent, like the subconscious is basically saying the computer says no, you're lying. It's not like a bit of a lie detector test, but not actual, yeah? So what happens, it weakens your muscles, and that's why it's difficult to swallow. They actually did an experiment on this where they got two groups of people, one with the limiting belief of that they're unlucky and the one's lucky. They put money like in this box thing, like $20 note. The people who were lucky found the money straight away. It was like instant. But the people who had a limiting belief that they were unlucky, even though it was right in front of them, they still did not see the money. That's how powerful a self-limiting belief is. So you can do self-muscle testing through the swallow test. So your audience at home could do this easily. So they have to do a base test, like your name first and then a fake name, and they can test themselves.
So what are some tips to change your self-limiting beliefs?
So once you do the self-muscle testing and you can work out what your self-limiting beliefs are, you do one at a time. I don't recommend doing a few, just one at a time, because it's a process and it does take some time because the subconscious works on repetition. So just say you want to change the belief that you are lucky, not unlucky, you're lucky, yes? What I would recommend is, if you want to do it at home, is start to say you're lucky all the time. So put it on your phone, calendar, so it's repeating. Now your conscious mind is looking at it all the time, and they'll start to go into your subconscious. The other technique I recommend, are you left hand or right hand dominant? Right. Then you brush your teeth with your left hand, and what that will do, it will open up your whole state, your whole brain state, and that way you're brushing your teeth, you say, I am lucky, I am lucky. If we want to change any habits or beliefs, it takes about 66 days, which is about that 10-week mark. So that's why it needs consistency. You don't want to change 2 or 3 limiting beliefs. It's just too difficult. You do it. That's why it's a time-consuming thing, but it's possible. I also recommend someone who does Psyche, like what I do, which takes about 15 minutes to do. Yeah, but you still have to do the repetition, but it's a lot more efficient way to change that limiting belief. So it's something that someone can do at home. Like I said, self-muscle testing, see where the limiting beliefs are, and then start to rewire the mindset in terms of the new belief system. Now, what happens, and this is really important, you have a pathway. So you have a pathway right now that says, I'm unlucky. So let's examine that a bit more. You know, when you go to the beach, there's no pathway, is there? But you can see some footprints. Your mind will go straight to follow the same footprints. That's like a pathway. That's how I look at it. What I'm asking you to do now is we're creating a new pathway, but it's a bit more rugged. It's not as easy because it's not as established. So for you to go onto the new pathway, it's going to take a lot of effort. So, and it's, like I said, a process. And what's going to happen though, if you keep using the new pathway, the old pathway will start to fade away, and that's what we want. It will never go away completely, but will fade away. And the new pathway will start to get a little bit more defined and so forth. That's what we want. So the new belief that I'm lucky will start to get stronger and stronger. But where it goes wrong sometimes with people is that, just say you lose a competition, you don't want to reactivate that new pathway. Okay, I didn't win that competition. Doesn't mean I'm not lucky. I need you to still use a new pathway, because you can start to, again, revert back to the old pathway. That's where it's really important. Like, so it is a difficult process, so help from a therapist is really important. You'll get faster results, and you'll get that coach to really make sure that you stay motivated and having that support that you might need to change your limiting beliefs.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful. If you'd like to know more about Sharee and changing your self-limiting beliefs, you can visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That's it from us today. We'll see you next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.